All rise. Court is now in session. I want to talk about the Carmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf situation, but I want to approach it from the place of how white people and mainstream media will consistently paint white aggressors as the victims. Now, I'm very blunt in what I say, and in this particular instance, I don't want my bluntness to be taken as callousness. Now, the fact that Austin Metcalf is 17 and he lost his life, that is a tragic situation all around. I don't care what race you are. To be that young and to lose your life is a tragic situation. Now, what that tragedy, the fact that that tragedy will never negate is that Austin Metcalf's death was 100% preventable by Austin Metcalf. Austin Metcalf is a victim of violence that he initiated and he couldn't finish. That's the reality of the situation. Had Austin Metcalf minded his business, he would still be alive and his parents would not be grieving the loss of their son. Now, again, I know that's very blunt, but there's a reason for that. Now, racism, aggression, and victimhood is woven into the fabric that is white American DNA. So much so that white people have to actively work to not be those things. However, the problem is that most white people, or enough white people, aren't doing the work to rid themselves of racism, aggression, and victimhood. They would prefer to just rest on the laurels of it. Everything that white people have amassed in this country has been through the violence and intimidation of black people, further proving that white people are naturally violent and are actually the natural aggressors. And I'm not saying that Austin Metcalf was not a good kid, just like I'm not saying Carmelo Anthony was not a good kid. But my issue is that if you're going to paint Austin Metcalf as the all-American boy, my question is, well, where was his all-American manners? Where was his all-American humanity? In the sense that he could not allow a young black man. He was there in an official capacity. He didn't just come up off the street. He was at the event in an official capacity, just as Austin Metcalf was. So where was his humanity in that moment that he could not allow Carmelo Anthony to sit under a tent that belonged to the school that Austin attended? It wasn't his personal tent. So he had no right to tell Carmelo Anthony to leave. He had no right to put his hands on him in the process. When a white juvenile commits a crime, regardless of the severity, there's the automatic mental health component. We have to figure out what was going on with his mental health, because he just couldn't. There's no way that a white person could commit a crime strictly of pure evil. Slavery and Jim Crow alone is evidence to the fucking contrary, but okay. But the moment a black juvenile commits a crime, it's automatically they are to be charged and tried as an adult regardless. It is your racism that allows you to think that even till this day in 2025, that you as a white person, whether you're a white adult or a white teenager, can interrogate random black people asking questions you have no fucking right to ask. And because you're white, you still wholeheartedly expect a fucking response to those questions. It is your racism that allows you to believe that you can openly disrespect black people. And because we're black and because you're white, we just have to sit there and take it. It is your aggression that allows you to believe in this day, 2025, that you can physically put your hands on black people. And again, because we're black and because you're white, we don't have a right to defend ourselves. And when that aggression is returned in kind, or it ends up in a way that you are not the victor that you anticipated on being, then we go to the victimhood. Because then you have to change the scenario to fit you being the victim and not the aggressor that you actually are. As white parents, You do a disservice to your children when you don't teach them the importance of minding their fucking business. You do a disservice to your children when you don't teach them the importance of knowing when and where to simply shut the fuck up. You do a disservice to your children when you don't teach them that fucking around can result in the ultimate find out, the outcome of which is that they won't be alive to see it. You do a disservice to your children when you teach them that their complexion is their automatic protection, because it's not. You do a disservice to your children when you teach them that whenever their actions are met with consequences, they are to lie and play the victim. Little Karens and Kens grow up to be big Karens and Kens. White women just didn't wake up one day being entitled, insufferable bitches. They've been entitled, insufferable bitches since childhood because their parents allowed them to be that. Just like little boys grow up to be insecure and entitled white men that have an inferiority complex when it comes to black people, specifically black men. But the reason why you can't impart this level of wisdom onto your children is because you as white adults don't know when to shut the fuck up. You as white adults don't know when to mind your fucking business, especially you fucking Karens. You as parents or white people walk around thinking your complexion is your fucking protection. The behavior is learned. Bottom line. Yes, the racism, the aggression, and the victimhood, it's in your DNA. But again, you don't actively work to rid yourself of it. You just want to continue to be racist, to be aggressors, and to be fucking victims. The way to be successful in a fight is to know your opponent and know your limitations. Because a tough motherfucker knows that it's always somebody tougher. And should you encounter that person, you act fucking accordingly. In other words, assess the situation so that you don't end up on the receiving end of an unnecessary ass whipping, or worse, an unnecessary death. Court is adjourned.